Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the Ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
Our freedoms and our freedom of speech being slowly but surely taken away. And a 15-year-old kid back in Minnesota wrote this prayer, or poem, I should say, about the Lord's Prayer and praying in school. I'm just going to read excerpts of it. If Scripture now the class recites, it violates the Bill of Rights. And any time my head I bow becomes a federal matter now. Our hair can be purple, orange, or green. That's no offense. It's a freedom scene. The law is specific. The law is precise. Prayers spoken aloud are a serious vice. For praying in a public hall might offend someone with no faith at all. In silence alone we must meditate. God's name is prohibited by the state. Well, it's not prohibited on this program, and it never will be. Amen. Good morning, everybody. Kate Smith and God Bless America, followed by a patriot with our Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning on a beautiful Tuesday morning. I'm Zeb Bell, Zeb at the Ranch, and our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. And, of course, some of our great advertisers, including Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Get on the route service today. Get rid of your garbage. Locally owned and operated, 734-6969 Western Waste Services. Well, good morning, Gina.
Well, good morning, sunshine.
You want to do that again? That sounded pretty good.
Seriously, good morning, sunshine.
The right term, right note, everything. I like that. Okay.
This is what I sing to my son every morning.
Do you really?
Well, yeah, when I try and get him up, I try and get him up in a nice way, so I always try and sing to him.
Oh, well, you always get on the phone and say, good morning, sunshine, and it takes the clouds and the fog away from me, and I have to respond in a nice manner. I like that. Anyway, how is everything going for you this morning?
Going well. The sun is shining, of course. Got up early, been productive, so can't complain. The day started off pretty good so far.
Okay, do we have a pledger?
We have Kilt Man on for the pledge.
Oh.
Michael Rogers on for the weather.
What a dear friend. Kilt Man, go ahead with the pledge, please.
It'll be my pleasure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can't find better neighbors than him and Lori. Thanks, Kilt Man. God bless you, man. Appreciate it.
Have a great day.
All right, my friend. Time for the weather, and the weather is brought to you by Cheney Flooring and Home Design, and they're located at 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for that blue door. Whatever you need to make your house a home, all the home decor, carpet and flooring, kitchen construction, everything. Look for the blue door. Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. And don't forget, they're going to have another girls' night out coming up on March 6th, right around the corner from 6 to 7:30. You call them for all the details. Right now, here's Michael Rogers' weather.
Hello, everyone. Michael Rogers with Zeb at the Ranch. You got sun and clouds today and temperatures in the 40s, and that's okay. You're getting set up for snow, which is going to start on Thursday and carry you all the way through Saturday. Tomorrow, you're going to see sun and clouds, and it's going to turn into mostly cloudy, and your big weather story is it's going to be windy. Look at the wind gusts up to about 30, 35 miles an hour. Daytime highs in the 40s. When the snow hits, daytime highs be in the upper 30s. Enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
Thank you very much, Michael Rogers, Weather.com. Brought to you by Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for the blue door, 678-6945. Hey, don't forget, every Thursday is sale day at the Burley Livestock Sale Yard. You better believe it. Merv May, Cade Rogge, Lance Udy, all of those folks at 1100 Occidental Avenue in Burley. Bring down the gavel at 10 a.m. sale time. This is the sale that works for you. Call them for consignments and information on the sale, 678-9411. That number again, 678-9411. Burley Livestock Sale Yard, Thursday sale day at 10 a.m. Oh, my goodness, we got a lot to take care of this morning. I want to say thank you to my neighbors, Kiltman and Lori. Absolutely excellent neighbors. I had an odd problem last night with buildup in my ears so I couldn't hear, and I want to say thanks to them for all they did. And then also, later on this morning, I'll be saying thank you to the urgent care down in Burley. Got the problem rectified. I can hear. Thank you very, very much. Oh, my goodness, let's not also forget our friends at Daryl's Cleaners. And Daryl's Cleaners, 1223. Is that for me, Deanne, for the show? Albion Avenue? Yes, sirree. Stop in anytime, all the time, with all your Rumply Crumplies, Kevin and Cindy, and the whole outfit ready to serve you. You can go to any dry cleaners you want, but I'll tell you what, these folks at Daryl's Cleaners are something special. They really take a lot of care, a lot of pride in their work. And so when you take those Rumply Crumplies in there, they are going to come back to you looking like they're brand spanking new. Absolutely. Nice people. Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. Also, want to say thank you to our friends at SafeLink Internet. What a nice job they do. You can now get, if you're unaware of it, the first month free plus free installation. That's right, just for $24.95 after that. And don't forget Idaho's #1 choice for wireless internet, 17 years and counting, SafeLink Internet. Take this number down, give them a call, tell them Zeb sent you. We really believe in these folks. The service is impeccable. 677-8000 SafeLink Internet. You bet. All right, give us a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. The family of Kayla Miller out of Arizona. The sadness, I just hope and pray that as a family member, I don't have to go through that kind of mental torture and all the absolute worrying and everything like they did. And then, of course, at the very end of the story, Kayla Miller was murdered by ISIS for really no reason whatsoever other than their atrocities to mankind. Well, there's a lot of school for thought here. We traded 5 very bad guys, 5 human vermin, back to their homeland for Bo Bergdahl. Now, a lot of people, and it's surprising to me how a lot of people still are pledging their allegiance to Bergdahl, his family and everything. Oh, he's a hero, everything. Every single thing I've read, every single person I've talked to has come out and said, and by the way, without mentioning names because they've asked to remain anonymous, some of the people I've talked to served with him. They didn't like anything that he did. They didn't like anything that he didn't do. And he was a traitor and a deserter, according to them. Now, that's not my words, that's theirs. So why did Obama trade 5 very bad guys for Bo Bergdahl? Was it primarily just for political gain? Now, there have been many, many commentaries made about this. many of which have said the same thing. It was political gain for Obama. But why not the same treatment? Why not the same gimme attitude for a very wonderful, hard-working girl trying to serve people that had less or didn't have anything, and that was Kayla Miller. Nobody from the State Department stepped in, no trades for her, and ISIS killed her. And she had so much to offer. What kind of a world, when you're talking about these terrorists, and this is in a related subject, what kind of a world are we living in now? And if you saw this film or this video last night on television, you know exactly what I'm speaking about. Where they take 8, 9, and 10-year-old kids and they put them in ISIS uniforms and they are teaching them to kill. The video is so shocking to me. And normally when you turn on the TV and see something of children that are 8, 9, and 10 years old, it's either a Little League baseball team or a basketball game or whatever. No, these people had taken these young ones and are teaching them to kill. Is that the kind of a world that we're going to have to accept from now on? Is that the kind of world that is slowly but surely encroaching right here into the United States? I think it is. And later on this morning at 9:30, we have been very, very lucky to get Dr. John Zernak. Dr. John Zermak is going to be on the program. He has written some outstanding articles in regards to how this encroachment is going to take over Europe and then very possibly take over us. Give us a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Don't forget, all the lights, all the lighting is at Ramsey Heating and Electric. They've got all the fluorescent lights, all the tubes in many colors and sizes. I ought to get different colors up here on the ceiling. I ought to get like a Christmas color of green and red or something like that. Anyway, they've got all the light bulbs. They got the high and low wattage. They've got everything. Everything. They've got all your venting, your wiring, your repairing for heating and everything. Hey, I'm telling you, this is the place to go, my friends. Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. And they always have warm winters and cool summers for you. Open 7:30 to 5:30 Monday through Friday. Ramsey Heating and Electric, as I almost choked to death on my little cough drop. Thank you very much to those good folks. And by the way, too, I want to mention, calls are welcome. Come on, give me a jingle. Talk to me this morning. Our thanks go out to Valley White Home and Ranch. And I mentioned this yesterday, and yes, I did have a call. Chick Days are coming to Valley White Home and Ranch. Here a chick, there a chick, everywhere a chick. Wrong chick. Anyway, Chick Days will be March 11th through the 21st at Valley Wide Home and Ranch, 910 South Oneida and Rupert. Really, really good folks. And by the way, while you're in there, be sure and check on all the 4-H clinics that they're going to be having over there at Valley Wide. Great staff to serve you at 910 South Oneida in Rupert, Valley Wide Home and Ranch. Now it's your turn. Give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I saw a map this morning that is absolutely scary. Al-Qaeda has a huge regional coverage all the way through Africa and all the way across the Middle East. And they had where their coverage is in red ink, and my goodness sakes, terrorism and being led by Al-Qaeda is all over the map. And then, to make matters even worse, ISIS, that is competing for power and control with Al-Qaeda, has taken over northern Africa and Syria and other parts of the Middle East. We're looking at some devastating times ahead if we don't have some kind of an attack, some kind of a plan, some kind of a strategy to get rid of these people. Because, as I have heard many say, they are here already and getting bigger and we'll do the same in this country. You know, one other little note of interest here regarding the Mall of America. Nobody wants to be the person in the theater that yells fire. But I'll tell you something, right now we need a whole bunch of people to yell fire. I didn't know this, but at the huge Mall of America in Minnesota, there is a gun ban in the Mall of America. So in other words, now with all these threats, now with all these terror threats saying, oh boy, look out malls, look out especially the big malls like the Mall of America, there's nobody there, there's nothing in there to protect anybody from the bad people. I just don't understand this. It's just kind of an open door policy. Gee, the door's open, but we sure hope you don't come in. Oh my goodness. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. By the way, for those of you that have been following this, Rudy Giuliani, former mayor of New York, and I heard this on quite a few different commentary shows last night, whether it was Greta, whether it was O'Reilly, whether whomever. Former New York City Mayor Giuliani is not going to back down to the Obama slander machine. Good for him. Good for him. Giuliani is a patriot. Giuliani stood in the rubble of 9/11, also with President Bush, and vowed and came true to his word that he would help others. He helped many, many people. He was an outstanding mayor for the city of New York. And he did a lot more than what we have now as a former community organizer, Mr. Obama. Giuliani should be thinking of running for president. There's a guy that absolutely would not take any guff. He's the head of a security company right now, and knows about security, knows about what needs to be done, and I don't know if it's because of his age or if he doesn't want to get back into politics again. I think Rudy Giuliani would be an excellent possible nominee for the presidency. He's got a tough attitude, and he puts people first. All right, your turn. Give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I'm going to do these commercials, and then I know somebody will call in, okay? Don't forget Denny's Restaurant. Oh, 611 Overland in Burley. That's our home for Zeb's Lunch Bunch. Food is fantastic. That's not bragging. That's a fact. And the service is absolutely the best, with Thomas and Terry and the whole crew serving you. And whether you're going in there for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, all of it is absolutely delicious. And they've got another location, too, at 291 Pole Line Road in Twin. 611 Overland in Burley, 291 Pole Line in Twin Falls, Denny's Restaurant. It is good eating. You stop in and see them today. Denny's Restaurant, the home also of Zeb's Lunch Bunch. Okay. All right, get those calls coming in now. Hey, don't forget Two Berries Equipment and Rental. Now, we have been very, very fortunate to have those folks on our program for a long time. And they just finished up at the Home and Garden Show in Twin Falls, and they've got 3 locations to serve you. 2331 South Lincoln Jerome, 465 Addison Avenue West in Twin Falls, and the new location at 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. Whether it's the Bobcats, or whether it's the Coyote tractors, or the Walker mowers, or the big Doosan loaders, great financing. I mean, they've got the best of retail equipment sales, equipment rentals, and parts and service, and the best in people. At Berry Equipment and Rental, Jerome, Twin Falls, and Burley. You stop in and see them today. All right, now, come on, it's your turn. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Oh, did you hear that Jonathan Gruber might be in a whole bunch of trouble? Remember Jonathan Gruber? He was the guy that was the architect of Obamacare, and he went around to various universities and everything and think tanks explaining Obamacare, and then he said, well, the American people are too dumb to really understand Obamacare, and we can slide it through, et cetera, et cetera. Well, this guy might be in a little trouble, because now it has been found out that maybe he bilked, B-I-L-K-E-D, bilked the state of Vermont and possibly some other states that were paying him federal money to come in and do kind of economic models for their states, etc., on Obamacare. And he had a $400,000 contract with Vermont, and it may be that he overbilled and lied about the bills. That's right. Well, old Jonathan might be in federal trouble for doubling and tripling his bill, waiting for the federal paychecks. And if that's the case, old Jonathan might be sent up the river for a while. And then, really, who's more stupid than that? Jonathan Gruber. In a lot of trouble. All right, come on. What is Gene, are the phone lines dead this morning? What happened over there?
I don't know. I'm sitting here working on my high school boys bracket so I can figure out which games I need.
Your high school boys brackets. My goodness. Who? Okay, give us just an inkling, a little tease. Who do you think's going to win everything?
It's hard to say, but right now, for at least our Great Basin Conference, we've got Twin Falls going up against Burley, and either the winner is going to be number 1 at state seed, the loser is going to be number 2.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to figure out where Jerome and Minico are trying to play in all of this. I'm working on the losers bracket right now.
For all the teams that are involved, I wish them well, and it's hard for me to sit here and say this over the other one, but I do hope that they all have excellent tournament action, and we'll try to do some highlights on that next week. Call coming in. I'll do this quick spot, and we'll get right to them. Scouts CarQuest Centers. Don't forget auto and truck parts. Rupert, Hayburn, and Burley. Since 1949, every detail matters, and I've been telling you to sign up for the Fleet Filter Survey today with all your vehicles on the farm. Great way to save time when something breaks down this spring. Don't you worry. They work with the Baldwin filters, the best heavy-duty filter in the industry, and that's at Scows CarQuest Auto and Truck Centers. You better believe it. 323 East 8th Street and Highway 25 in Rupert, 518 Overland in Burley, and exit 211 I-84 in Hayburn. Scows, the very, very best. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Jeb.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you know yourself that people with their D's behind their name, like Goober and all that stuff, nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to happen to Barkdale, probably, because they just don't give a damn.
Wait a minute. Barkdale? Who are you talking about? Bergdahl?
Oh, that Berkdale.
Bergdahl, yeah. Bergdahl.
The deserter.
Yeah.
There was a piece in the paper this morning about one that gets 2 years of dishonorable discharge and has to lose $3,000. Whatever happened to the old thing that if you're deserting in the time of war, you are discharged or put up for a firing squad, and then you're marked with a big D on your forehead. Whatever happened to that stuff?
Let me ask you a quick.
Gone by the wayside.
Let me ask you a quick question. Then I got that hard break at the bottom of the hour. You served in the military and everything, and you know what the honors are for our military to represent our country. He walked away. He packed up all of his stuff, had it shipped home, and he walked away. Al, that's not like a person that didn't expect to get caught or captured.
I know it, and then lose the guys who went looking for him.
Yeah.
But anyway, anything with the D's on it, they're not going to, nothing happened to them because you got all them guys with tax evasions and all that stuff. They're still running around, nothing done. But you put an R behind their name, and boy, you're run through the ringer.
I guess you're right.
God bless Giuliani.
You know, I absolutely, I go along and say ditto that, because that man had the guts. He knew it was possibly political suicide to take on the Obama machine as far as what they can do to destroy him and his personality. But he had the guts to do it.
Yep. Anyway.
All right, Al.
Today is my son-in-law's and his wife's 42nd anniversary.
Oh, well, good. What's their names? We'll give them a plug.
Rod and Cara Haig.
All right. Well, I appreciate that, Al. Thank you so much.
You betcha.
All right, have a good day. Thank you. Hey, real quick, and then we need some phone calls for the next half hour. Don't forget, coming up right now, we're going to have the Capital Press Ag Minute, and it's brought to you by Mount Harrison Audiology. Oh, this is a wonderful lady, Christine Pickup, Doctor of Audiology, and don't forget, at age 65, 1 out of 3 people has a hearing loss, but hearing loss is not an age problem. So if you've suffered some hearing loss, be sure and give her a call at 312-0957. Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids with Christine Pickup, Doctor of Audiology. Arrange for an appointment for a hearing screening today. 312-0957. Here now, the Capital Press Ag Minute.
Today's Ag Minute brought to you by the Capital Press, the West Ag Weekly. Organizations representing beef and pork producers are crying foul over proposed dietary recommendations that advise Americans to lower their intake of red and processed meats. That recommendation was included in a near 600-page report released February 19th by the 2015 Dietary Guidelines Advisory Committee. The report will be used by USDA and the Department of Health and Human Services to update the government's dietary guidelines for Americans, which not only influence consumer eating patterns, but form the basis of federal nutrition programs, such as the school lunch program. Meat groups say the committee is more interested in addressing what's trendy among foodies rather than providing science-based advice. For the Capital Press Ag Minute, this is Brandon Tenner. For more agriculture news and information, turn to the West Ag Weekly, the Capital Press, and CapitalPress.com.
Oh, thank you very much. Brought to you by Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. Christine Pickup, Doctor of Audiology, right behind the Minidoka Hospital. And call her for a hearing screening today. Very, very important. 312-0957. Did you hear that? All right, give us a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Why do people, and I just don't understand this, why do people in, especially this administration, why are they saying that they did something or participated in something in the military when it's not true? Look at what happened outside of the military with Brian Williams, and we're going to be talking about his story a little bit later on this morning too. Lied and enhanced the news stories as to what he was involved in for some reason to make himself look like some kind of a superhero. Well, now, I don't know if you heard this or not, Veterans Affairs Secretary Robert McDonald falsely told a homeless veteran last month that he, McDonald, had served in the Special Forces during his 5-year stint in the Army. No, he had not. That's a lie. And did you hear the excuse? I got to get Gina in on this. Did you hear the news at 8 o'clock about this story, Gina?
No, I wasn't paying attention.
They came out, and the administration came out during the news, and they said, well, the reason he lied about it, I'm paraphrasing, was that basically he was trying to create a bond with the homeless man that he was talking to.
Really?
Are you kidding me? Do these people have to lie to flower up their career and say that they were in Special Forces? He wasn't in Special Forces, and he finally came out and admitted it to the Huffington Post this morning. And he said he made a mistake.
You knowingly make a mistake by lying. So he knew he was doing it. He knew what he was doing was wrong, but yet he continued to do it and play it off for a while.
You know, I go back to this definition of mistake and choice. Number one, he was visiting with a homeless vet. And the vet had been, he said, I was in Special Forces. Well, then McDonald said, well, I was too, and he bragged and lied about it. But why do these people have to lie about their past successes and or failures like this? They know they're going to be found out somehow because of the videotape and all the other things that have been written, etc. Why? Why enhance something like this?
To make themselves feel better, to connect to whoever it is that they're talking to.
Well, I go back to the mistake and a choice. Now, if you, over there on the board, plug in the wrong tape at the wrong time, what is that?
Well, that's my mistake. That's my bad.
But it's a mistake, right?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely a mistake. All humans make them. But if you, by choice, put in the wrong tape for some reason, that is a choice that you absolutely thought about and you did it.
Right.
So if he's sitting there talking to somebody about a homeless vet that served in Special Forces, and McDonald said, well, so was I. That's a choice, is it not?
That is a choice. When it's actually coming out of your mouth and you are saying it as to be truth when you know it's not, that is your choice to say that lie.
Yeah, and these people seem to be doing it all the time. And later on in the story, it also became apparent that McDonald said, 900 people have been fired since I became Secretary of the VA. You know what? 60 people were fired.
Wow.
60. And only 8 for manipulating wait times. So he claimed that he had let go over 1,000 people and he was cleaning house. Cleaning house of only 60 people? That's not really a big broom and a dustpan, is it?
No, it's not.
Why do they have to lie? I just don't understand this. They know they're going to be caught at this.
You know, you're asking me a rhetorical question. I don't know why people lie. And it serves them no purpose because they are going to be caught.
Well, that, and then you have not heard all the news this morning. I have got to get into this because it is absolutely sickening. And I think you knew a lot about this story when we were talking about it the last time. Bruce Jenner. Have you heard about Bruce Jenner?
Well, you and I have been talking about it. I haven't kept up on him, though.
Well, here's the deal. This guy is now going to become a she-male. And Bruce Jenner, Olympic gold medal winner. And the story was in Sports Illustrated. If you get a chance to read the last page of Sports Illustrated by Alan Shipnuck, the story is that while the filming, get this, while the filming of the Kardashians was going on television, while the filming was going on the set, he would go into the dressing rooms and dress up in his daughter's and his wife's female attire.
Wow.
This guy is one sick puppy.
At least apparently he didn't make it out on set like that.
Well, people started to notice the difference in his hair and in his facial makeup and everything. Yeah. And people like Al Michaels, way back when he used to work on ABC TV with Bruce Jenner as one of the people on different sports events. Way back then, even in 1977, Al Michaels noticed that Bruce was a little different.
So this has been something brewing for a long time now.
Oh, yeah. But now the transgenders have stepped forward, and here's what they said. Bruce Jenner has a chance to show the world that being transgender is a regular part of human diversity.
It's not regular.
I can't even go there. I mean, I am just blown away.
Yeah.
Here is a guy that was on Wheaties boxes. Here is a guy that was on Wheaties boxes in my home. And to think that he was really out in La La Land on this since way back in the 70s, this is sickening and perverted.
Well, and the story is that Kris Jenner, the wife, has known for a long time, but now she's coming out and she's all like, being all shocked and surprised about this going on. And the girls are saying, you know what? She's known for a long time. This is not any big secret in our family.
Oh, but I mean, how in the world could you have a television show? And it's the Kardashians on TV, and he and his family, and while they're in taping the show, he's in putting on their clothes and going off out of the dressing room. A lot of people saw him wearing their clothes, and then he would go back into the dressing room and change back into his normal clothes. Unbelievable. It's just too much for me to handle this morning. Calls are welcome, please. The world is going nuts. Give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Come on, give me a call while I'm waiting for your call. Maybe you don't want to comment on that, but we'll comment about anything you want to this morning. Open up the floodlines and let them in on the phone. Hey, Sheridan Ranch 20th Annual Production Sale with Cordell Sheridan and his family. Oh, this is a ripping good sale. And it's coming up in just a matter of days, March 7th, at the Burley Livestock Auction Yards. And they're going to be selling 70 head of really good bulls. The bulls are Gelbvieh and Angus and Balancers, Gelbvieh Angus cross. 15 head are coming 2-year-olds, 55 head great big mature yearlings, and there's a first-year breeding season guarantee and free delivery up to 300 miles. Now, at that sale that day at the Burley Livestock Yard, they're going to have complimentary lunch, and don't forget, these bulls can get the job done for you. Raised out in the rocks, they know how to travel the country. For more information, call Cordell at 824-5531. Sheridan Ranch 20th Annual Production Sale, March 7th at 1 p.m. at the Burley Livestock Sale Yard. You be there, okay? All right, give us a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Excuse me. Coming up this weekend, I want to remind you, a quick reminder, and then hopefully we'll take some calls in here this morning, that the Minnecasia Lincoln Day Luncheon will be held on this Saturday, the 28th, at Maury's Steakhouse in Burley. The meet and greet starts at 12 noon and then lunch at 1 p.m. So we invite everybody to be there. Tickets sold at the door, so try to be there. And if you have questions, great time to visit with your politicals. Good morning, you're on the air.
Yeah, talking about the VA and what they do, I've got a son who served in the Persian Gulf War, and he developed MS, and they went in and put a pump into his chest that would, this is years after, several years after he developed MS. Mm-hmm. But they put a pump in that would get fluid to his legs to help him to relax and be able to walk a little bit. And he had a hard time walking. But this pump, the hose that went down to inject it into his body, it got a kink in it.
Oh, boy.
And so they went back in, and they put a new pump in and fixed the hose. And 4 days after they did that, he got a blood clot in his heart, and he passed away.
Oh, no, I'm so sorry.
And the thing of it is, now about 6 months later, his wife got a bill from the VA for $42,000 that had been turned over for collection.
Oh, I don't even know what to say. My heart goes out to your family for this. Let's go to the end of the story first. What about the bill? Why was the bill turned in for collection? I mean, certainly there had to be somebody that was watching over this situation and realized what had happened.
She doesn't know, and she didn't even receive a bill. She didn't receive a bill until she got this notice. I mean, that's the first time she knew about it.
So just give me a recapitulation here on what's going on. The wife got the bill after the fact of $42,000, and they had turned it in for collection?
And this is almost 6 months after he passed away.
Oh, my goodness.
And she got no bill in between to know that there was even anything out there. And so she's contacted the VA to see why this has happened. Oh. And this just, she got the bill, I think, about a week ago.
Well, let me ask you this.
Over to collection.
Let me ask you this, and I don't want you to give away any more information than you don't want to talk about, but what state was this in?
Idaho.
Right here in Idaho.
And he lived in Meridian.
I see.
And it was done at the VA hospital in Boise.
So what are you saying needs to be done here? What is the cure-all, or what is rectification of this problem? What do you think?
I don't know. It's beyond me. You know, he's a vet. He was covered under, the other operation was covered and everything. And why? It's just beyond me. I don't know what to say.
So this man served his country and comes back, has these problems, and I don't know if it was something as far as shabby treatment or whatever, but have there been approaches to the VA office to try to rectify this? Have there been approaches to them to say basically the bill cannot be paid and will not be paid? What's the status currently?
Well, I don't know. Like I say, it just happened a week ago.
Oh, my
She got
goodness.
the notice.
Oh, my.
And so she has checked with them or called them to see, try and find out. And I haven't heard anything back from her as to what she has done and what's happening.
I have had a lot of people that have served in our military that live here in the state of Idaho be very, very prideful of what is going on with the state VA, but then I've talked to others in Arizona, I've talked to the others in Texas, and I've talked to others back in Wisconsin, and some of the horror stories that I've heard have been just absolutely tearjerkers. What do you think needs to be done to get this mess straightened up once and for all?
Well, I don't know. You got to contact them, just like any other government office. You got to contact them. Then there's all the paperwork and all the delays. And, you got to contact this person. You got to contact that person.
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't know, just overwhelming.
May I just say again, my deepest condolences for your loss, sir, and God bless you for calling in this morning. Thank you so much. And off the radio or anything I can ever do to help you in any way, just let me know, please.
I will, and I appreciate listening to your program and the things that you bring up and the things that you do.
Sure, thank you very much. God bless you. Thank you. Caller, I hear you, and I'm asking your indulgence. I've got to get a weather forecast in real quick. It'll only take 60 seconds. Don't go away. I want your call, please. Red's Trading Post, 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls. You better believe it. All the guns, all the ammo, all the accessories, and the best in people to answer all your questions. They've got the best of staff at Red's Trading Post in historic Old Town since 1936 in Twin Falls. Red's Trading Post. Here now, Here now, Michael Rogers weather.
Hello, everyone. Michael Rogers is Zeb at the ranch. You got sun and clouds today and temperatures in the 40s, and that's okay. You're getting set up for snow, which is going to start on Thursday and carry you all the way through Saturday. Tomorrow, you're going to see sun and clouds, and it's going to turn into mostly cloudy, and your big weather story is it's going to be windy. Looking for wind gusts up to about 30, 35 miles an hour. Daytime highs in the 40s. When the snow hits, daytime highs be in the upper 30s. Enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
Thank you, Michael. Red's Trading Post, 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls, our sponsor of Michael Rogers Weather. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Yeah, talking about the VA, one thing you have to determine is if the MS on the soldier who just called in about, if that was the fault of the service, if that was connected while he was in the service, then the VA is responsible for it. If it's not service-related, the VA is not responsible for it. And that goes with anything.
Mm-hmm. I guess the clarification process, perhaps that hasn't been made or assumed as to whether or not they have the jurisdiction to take care of this. I don't know. I just heard that story for the first time.
He can get treatment at the VA, but he has a copay or he has to pay for it if it's not service-connected.
Right.
You know? Now, and that's one point. The second point is the area Idaho is in, and they cannot get pressure socks that was required for me out of the Salt Lake area. The Salt Lake, they issue them to me in Salt Lake. So when I moved to Idaho and I switched to Boise, Boise can't even get them.
Oh, my.
The pediatrics and or the podiatry podiatry in Boise, they can't even get them. They don't even have them in their system.
So
I showed them what they were, and they couldn't get them.
Let me ask you a quick question. I've got another call waiting. You could get them while you were in Utah living there, and then you moved up here 250 miles away, and our VA here in the state of Idaho couldn't give you the same material?
That's correct.
And I guess
so
my obvious...
To Salt Lake.
Oh, my goodness.
Now, they only pay me the travel that it would be if I went to Boise.
Yeah.
I don't get the full travel pay to go to Salt Lake, but I'd take the difference and go to Salt Lake because I get better treatment.
I see. All right, sir. I appreciate your phone call, and God's blessings to you, and thank you for the service to our country. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thank you. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, Ed, I haven't had a bit of trouble with VA out of Boise. Of course, I haven't been there for any big items, but as far as getting medical care and medicine, why, I've had real good luck with them, but this is dead wrong.
Well,
they need to take care of their servicemen.
Well, Fred, real quick, why is the VA having, in general, all across the country, so many problems? Why can't they clean this mess up?
Well, I think they darn sure should. This is unreal.
Yeah.
I can't believe it's happening to these guys.
No, I can't either.
This woman get hit with a bill like that.
Yeah.
That should never happen.
Absolutely. Fred, it's so good to hear from you. God bless you, man. I got another call coming in. Thank you so much.
You bet.
I just don't understand why the Veterans Administration, and now with some of the hokey-pokey that's going on with the new man, McDonald, with the lies and the half-truths, etc., I just don't understand why. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. You know, I'm disheartened about what you're hearing about the VA. I've been visiting and going through the VA for all sorts of medical things, and I've had a really good experience. For me, in my experiences, and I've had 2 heart cauterizations done on my heart in the last 8 years. They've done nothing but help and been really outstanding as far as that goes. Mm-hmm. And it has gone far enough that I've chose to use my VA doctor as my personal doctor, private doctor, which I go through, and I pay the difference out of pocket and with my own insurance from where I work to help cover it. And I enjoy it, and it's really disheartening to hear that other veterans are having problems, and it's really hurtful to me to hear about other fellow veterans being treated as such.
Well, the thing is, Riley, that we have to do on this program, that if there is a problem for one person that maybe another person can relate to, we're going to figure out why, and we're going to try to get to the bottom of it. But in general, let me just finish saying this. The VA evidently has some big holes in its screen door on a nationwide level, or we wouldn't be hearing so many horror stories about management and about coverage.
I agree with you. Well, thank you for your time.
All right, buddy. Thank you so much. I don't know what's going on, but I do know that when I read stories about mismanagement, or maybe not taking care of our vets in the proper manner, or taking care of them in the proper time frame, it needs to be discussed. It needs to be openly argued to the point where our vets should be giving primo, first-class treatment when they come home. There shouldn't be any ifs, ands, or buts about it. And if they can't get an administrator that can clean things up and run things efficiently, let them go and get someone else. And if this man, Robert McDonald, feels the urge to lie about his service, to embellish and enhance his service, he might not be the man for the job. Caller, I'll be right there. Don't go away. I want to remind everybody about the Founders Celebration at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Oh, my goodness sakes, lots of savings. They've got all-season tread tires, some economically very, very low-priced, and some starting as low as just $39.99. All of this including the best in brake service, the best in front-end alignments, the best in shocks and struts, the best in batteries. We're going to get more cold weather. You better make sure that battery's all ready to go. And they've got all the winter wheels. They've got everything over there at Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, John on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland and Burley. The best, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
How are we doing this morning, Mr. Bell?
Well, I got a little sore throat, but we're okay. What can I do for you?
That's because you talk too much.
Thank you very much, sir.
I have one for you. My friend, which I have not seen this, but I trust him. He's an older World War II veteran, and he was telling me just last week, he says he can't figure it out because he goes to Boise and Salt Lake. And he says in Salt Lake they got this big bucket of canes. If you need a cane, you know, they're free. Take the cane. He says you go to Boise and they charge $7.95 for them.
Okay, now I cannot respond to that because I do not know the situation at either location. But you're saying one is a gratuity, a freebie, and the other one you pay for, right?
That's what he says.
Okay. You know, I guess maybe my response would be, let me ask you a question. I'm almost out of time. $7.95. Really, when it comes right down to brass tacks, can't most people, and I'll probably take heck for this, pay $7.95?
Yeah, but it's weird that one place they give them away free to the VA veterans and the other place they're charging for.
Yeah, I agree with that aspect, but, you know, really, sometimes I think we have much ado about nothing, really, when it comes to very low cost. $7.95 for a cane. I mean, my goodness, I spend probably $250 a year on crutches because I'm hard on them, and I use them sometimes as cattle sticks, and I shouldn't. Yeah. But, I mean, let's be realistic about what really a cost factor is. Hey, sir, I appreciate your call. God bless you, man. Thanks.
Bye.
I got to run and go to the news. Next from ABC. Don't go away. We'll be back in 6.
They will be well served, and this is what I do. I think they would be well served by in the morning or whenever their habit is of getting their news, of going to a variety of online sources. And I think more and more you're going to see places like CNS News, our own news service, or the Daily Signal, or the Blaze, or any of these types of places that are going to be providing Americans with Breitbart, that are going to be providing Americans with news that the liberal media no longer does.
Let me ask you this, Christian. Do you share some of the same trepidations that I do, that we are getting closer and closer to a government-controlled news dispatching industry? In other words, Obama made a comment the other day, and I can't give it to you verbatim, but basically it was that the media is distorting everything and we need one centralized source of news. When I heard that, I just cringed because that's nothing more than a Venezuelan-type newscast.
Unbelievable. I mean, what can you say about it? It is amazing that the President of the United States, it is amazing that any American would say anything even close to that. I mean, there is no way to be an apologist for those types of remarks. But it doesn't surprise me, unfortunately, coming out of that administration. Here's what it reminds me of. It reminds me of, and your listeners should be well-versed about this, it reminds me of this administration's attempts through the FEC and the FCC to control the Internet by basically controlling political speech on the Internet and by controlling the content, by regulating it as a utility through their policy of net neutrality. And this is going to be, the FCC is going to be voting on this, at least for right now, this Thursday. And it is very eerily close to censorship and government control of this last bastion of free media. That's the first thing it reminds me of. The second thing is Cheryl Atkinson. You know, her book, her coming out and talking about her experiences where she was stonewalled at ABC.
It was CBS, wasn't it?
The way in which she was monitored by what appears to be government entities does seem to, and by the way, the federal government, it appears, was spying on other, James Rosen, on other media folks as well. So there does seem to be this government encroachment upon the media and this attempt to control it. And if people think that it's fanciful, they just need to go and they need to look at the FEC's plans to control political speech on the internet. Very disturbing.
I've got a little bit of a caveat to throw out here, and I'm worried about this. What about the general attitude of the American public? I'm not ashamed to say that I think I've got one of the best audiences anywhere in the United States. They're conservative, but yet they're very, very open-minded, and they voice their opinion. But in general, aren't you worried about the apathy of the American public letting this happen? And it seems like it's kind of an open-door policy to let it happen again.
Well, I think so. I mean, you just never know. I mean, I tend to be I think at its core, the types of Americans that listen to your program, the types of Americans that listen to talk radio, the types of Americans who vote, the types of Americans who participate in civic organizations, it may not be a majority of Americans, but it's a very active group of Americans who are patriotic and who do want to do right by the founding principles of the country. And I am disturbed sometimes by the majority of Americans who either seem to be apathetic or who seem to be downright hostile to those principles. But I do take some confidence that you don't need to have a majority to have impact. You can have a very well-organized minority. And I think it's very important, by the way, for those of us who are passionate about conservative principles or the founding principles, one and the same, that we be optimistic.
When you
I'm not quite as dour.
When you take polls, like I was reading in the cheat sheets here this morning, polls of the American people, do these numbers that you're seeing today, do they surprise you? Do they fall in lockstep with what you anticipated? On behalf of the Media Research Center, are you surprised that it's almost 50-50, like or dislike President Obama?
Well, actually, I'll tell you, the poll that we took did surprise me. Now, one of the data points there was the percentage of respondents that said that Brian Williams should resign. 71.6%, almost 72%. And almost 62%, 61.6%, said they're less likely to trust NBC News if he's allowed to return. The reason that surprises me is I thought that it would be more along the lines of what you're talking about. It would be maybe 50-50 or, maybe it would be 45-55, but it's certainly 72% think he should resign. Very surprising because whenever I think of the American public, I think of my elderly mom and dad. And my dad, I was sitting across from dinner, the dinner table with him, and he's very conservative. And he said, well, I kind of like Brian Williams, and I don't think what he did was that wrong. And then we began to talk about it, and I could see there was this epiphany that was growing in his eyes. But that's who I think of when I think of the American public. And to have that level of people who think that he should resign, that did surprise me, I can tell you that.
Christian, and then talking also, and I don't mean to dovetail into something we weren't planning on talking about, but when you talk about Robert McDonald, the VA Affairs Secretary, I was very disheartened in this man that he had to embellish and basically lie about his service, and he's not the first one, and unfortunately, he probably won't be the last.
No, he won't. And just to get back, this is just the way that it goes. Once you get in the public sphere, it's amazing to me, whether it's with media figures or whether it is with political figures. I mean, it is amazing to me that Brian Williams talking about the media now, lied not just about Iraq, but it turns out that there are all of these exaggerations that he made as well about Katrina, about rescuing puppy dogs, about all sorts of things. But, you know, I think that we have to expect to some degree this is just human nature. And we are always going to, and it, as a matter of fact, it proves why the Fourth Estate is so important. You know, people, as James Madison said, they're not angels. And yes, they're going to fabricate these things. Yes, people are always going to disappoint us, and it's all the more reason why we must be so vigilant.
Let me ask you one final thought, and it's a personal question about your likes and dislikes. When you talked about Bret Baier and Megyn Kelly, I absolutely would say I agree with you 100%, along with another person I think has done a very good job of reporting on the news, is Greta Van Susteren. But on the other side of that coin, I look at a bloviating gladiator like O'Reilly, and he leaves me with a lot of want that he should have done or shouldn't have done.
Yeah, he is, but let's be clear about both Megyn Kelly and Bill O'Reilly. I know that they have two very different styles,
right?
But they're color commentators. They are, you know, Bill O'Reilly probably would not say that in public, but he has a entertainment show, and he gets very excited and red in the face, and he is there because there is a market for that type of animatronics. I mean, you know, he likes to get very frothy at the mouth and just angry and upset. And so he does leave me wanting for something, as do other commentators, by the way, conservative commentators, both on the radio and TV. But when you step back and you think, yeah, but you know, he's not Brit Hume and he's not Bret Baier, and he is not. He's not just reporting the news. It makes it a little bit more palatable, I think.
Absolutely. You know, I've enjoyed this conversation. Christian Roby with the Media Research Center, thank you for coming on the program, and hopefully you'll come back in the future. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Zeb.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Interesting insight as to what's going on in the news world, and then also about how some of the stories embellished and everything to help promote their careers. Thank you very much to Christian Roby this morning, again with Media Research Center back in New York. Thank you very much. Oh, we got to pay some bills here real fast. Let's not forget our friends at Cheney Floors. Oh, my goodness sakes. These are wonderful people. Going to have them on the radio later on this week. Cheney Flooring and Home Design at 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Don't forget, look for the blue door. My goodness, these are good folks. Carpet and flooring, kitchen construction, home decor items, whatever you need to make your house a home, and they've got all the newly refurbished furniture too. So stop in or give them a call, 678-6945. Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for the blue door. And the other day, Deanna and I stopped over to Let's Ride and dropped off our four-wheelers to be serviced and ready to go for this spring. And they got a new man over there, Scott. I'll tell you what, there is a home run. Really a nice man. And that service department's second to none. Absolutely, they are first class. So now is the perfect time to get your four-wheelers serviced and ready to go. Don't wait. Call, make an appointment, get them over there. 436-4771. Let's Ride, Highway 24 between Rupert and Hayburn, and right now rebates on dirt bikes, great time to buy, and 0% financing on ATVs. Better check it out. Let's Ride, where the fun is sold. Absolutely. Once again, I want to remind you, that coming up this Saturday, the Mini-Cassia Lincoln Day Luncheon is going to be held on the 28th, this coming Saturday, at Maury's Steakhouse in Burley. Now, everybody get there early because at 12 noon they're going to have the meet and greet. All the politicals will be there. We can have our chance to ask questions, etc. And then at 1 o'clock, we're going to have the luncheon. So everybody plan to be there, and tickets are on sale at the doors. So plan to be there at Maury's this coming Saturday. Want to remind you, too, about our friends at Cameron and Siemens Insurance. Really good, folks. You bet when you think about life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits, all of this and more with Dean Cameron and Todd Siemens, dedicated and responsive to your needs. Always accessible and devoted to serving others, and their location easy to find as my phone is going off. I think I better change my phone signals. It scares me. It sounds like that charge of the last brigade. Highway 24 in Rupert, Cameron and Siemens Insurance. Call ahead for an appointment at 436-4424. That number again, 436-4424. Before we start, Gina, does that charge of the light brigade come over the air when you hear that?
Yep, I heard it.
I changed it. Here's what I've got on my phone. I've got a duck quack for when calls come in. I've got a charge of the light brigade for messages, and when somebody leaves a phone message for me, I've got a dog barking.
See, mine is just a very innocuous ding, and that's it. And I also keep my phone on low, so nobody else hears it when I'm on the air.
Are you trying to tell me that I need to change it a little bit?
Turn down the volume.
Well, that's so I can hear it.
Well, then put it on vibrate.
Well, don't tell me what to do with my phone. Okay.
Well, I don't want it to go over the air.
Well, it scared the bejeebers out of me there for a minute. Anyhow, our guest is ready to go, and we're so glad to have him on the program this morning. I am not sure how to say his name, so I'm going to take a stab at it, and then I'm going to see if he'll correct me. Dr. John Zmirak. Is that close?
Yeah, that's right.
Really? Well, you can send me a check or cash or money order, whatever you want to do. That's fine. John, tell us a little bit about yourself. Give us your past and present and what you do for a living and that type of thing.
Well, right now I'm wearing my hat as the senior editor for thestream.org, which is an exciting new website and news portal that's sponsored by Reverend James Robison, who's a TV evangelist and a humanitarian. And we started a website for highlighting news about religious liberty and political conservatism and pro-life issues and that sort of thing. And I think I'm on because I wrote recently about some of our encounters with radical Islam.
Yeah. I read your piece, and it made me even more nervous and very unsecure about my feelings and my surroundings and what's happening here in the Northwest, what could be coming across our borders, what's being brought in on a refugee status. I guess in a nutshell, to start things off this morning, I hope you don't mind if I call you John, is that I just wonder how insecure our country really is, because I don't think this Obama administration has a clue. Pick it up from there.
I think the unconstitutional amnesty that Obama put into place is borders on treason. We're practically begging millions of people to stay in the country, and we're offering them a check. The IRS is going to offer tens of thousands of dollars in back tax rebates through the Earned Income Tax Credit to illegals who can say that they could show that they were working here using someone else's Social Security number. So in other words, the IRS is going to reward people for years of committing the felony called identity theft.
Right.
Well, a country that's doing that is clearly signaling to the rest of the world that it doesn't take its own security seriously.
John, when you did the study to write this piece, was it an eye-opener for you to find out about the infiltration, I'll use that word, of perhaps some of the real bad guys into the refugee program, not only here in the United States, but also in Europe, and how bad things really are? I mean, were you shocked when you did some of the research?
A little bit. I mean, the story at thestream.org that you're talking about is about the reports of a British anti-terror group that ISIS is planning to put its own operatives in among the refugees who sail every year to Europe and try to make it to Italy, to the town of Lampedusa in Sicily. There are tens of thousands of mostly Muslim refugees from Africa who get on rickety boats and sail to Europe. And then are put in refugee camps, and they're taking the chance that they'll be able to get asylum in Europe and then go to Germany or England and go on welfare for the rest of their lives because there are no jobs for these people. That's bad enough. But now ISIS is planning to use these people to smuggle terrorists into southern Europe with the plans of blowing up ports like Marseille or Genoa or Venice, blowing up ships, burning down churches. They're going to use this refugee navy as a means to smuggle in a terrorist army. And in the article, I point out that it's unfortunate that people like Pope Francis are trying to make Europe feel guilty about not accepting the tens of thousands of people who sail in from Africa, who, for whom there are no jobs. They don't understand European languages. They're not high school graduates. They're going to be on public assistance, and a lot of them are going to go to radical mosques and be recruited as terrorists if they weren't terrorists going in.
Now, John, what about any scrutinization, any paperwork, any studies into their backgrounds, any detective work whatsoever to find out who, what, and where these people have been and what they know, who they want to associate with? I mean, do we know absolutely nothing? We're just kind of making a mass entrance into these countries?
That's right. We know absolutely nothing. I mean, these are desperately poor people with no papers who arrive in a boat. What are you going to do? They have no information. I mean, not that we're much better off here. I read an AP story yesterday that in the last 60 days, 20,000 more illegal immigrants crossed into America just in the state of Texas alone. And why should we be surprised when the president is handing out amnesties and tax rebates to illegal immigrants? I can understand why people like Rudolph Giuliani go over the top and say maybe unguarded things about what does Obama want for this country. It is hard to find a charitable explanation for why the president would do things like this. Well, I will be a little kinder than Giuliani. I don't think Obama intentionally wants to destroy America. I think he wants to import future leftist Democratic voters. And he's willing to do that by any means necessary, to quote Malcolm X.
But John, you and I could go on and have a friendly debate and dissertation about this. I tend to think more like Giuliani said, and I'm very open about it. I have a lot of respect for Rudy Giuliani. But, here we have a president that has not shown me, a taxpayer, that he really cares about me first and foremost when he brings in everybody and anything unbeknownst to the general public as to who these people are, what they represent, and basically puts them on the public dole at my money, my expense. I am very bitter, John.
Well, I would suggest you be bitter at the Republicans right now. If the Republicans cave on this so-called shutdown of the Homeland Security, if the Republicans cave in and go ahead and fund Obama's amnesty, then they're every bit as bad as he is.
I can't argue that point. I totally agree with you. I think that everybody had high hopes and aspirations back at the midterm elections, and I'm seeing nothing but a bunch of milquetoast people running around like straw men, not getting the job done the way we wanted when we voted for them. But that being said, what about this federal judge's ruling that kind of put a great big slap in the face to the Obama amnesty program? What do you think is going to happen?
That was not a stop sign. That was a yellow light. That gave us breathing room, but we have to take action. If we don't want a mass amnesty that's going to legalize 4 million people now and 4 million people in 2 years, and then the next 10 million people who come in because of the amnesty, will legalize them too, and we'll put them on the public dole, and they can vote even if they're not here legally, even if they don't have documents. It is an absolute betrayal and sellout of our country by our president. And if the Republicans don't resist it, by the Republican Party too.
Okay.
I love what Ann Coulter said. She said, if the Republicans controlling both houses of Congress can't stop the president giving illegal immigrants back tax checks of tens of thousands of dollars for committing identity theft, is there any reason to ever vote Republican ever again?
That's
so I
true.
think right now we need to hold the Republican seat to the fire.
Okay, now, I guess the obvious question is, maybe I'm getting off the rails here a little bit, but how? You know, I call my senators and my congressmen. I have them on this program. I chew them out for the things that are being or not being done. The general public that listens to my audience, they send letters till they're blue in the face and they get form letters back. I think that politics and Washington have lost touch with the people out in the hinterland.
Oh, I think they lost touch with a lot of the people in all parts of the country. I'd say look at the website Numbers USA. They have a very effective means whereby you can contact your legislators and fax them and email them repeatedly on individual pieces of legislation. Write letters to the editor. Pray for our country, because it's a great country and it's a lot more fragile than people think. So I hope people will look at the stream.org and follow our coverage of these issues and spiritual issues and other important things for the future of America.
Well, John, you know, I'm so glad to hear about the spirituality, and I'm a firm believer in Christ and being a Christian, but that's not going to, in its entirety, slow down what's happening now in the Middle East and also in Africa, etc., with ISIS and Al-Qaeda, and the infiltration into our country. I mean, we have no borders. We have no knowing who these people are that are coming in from maybe refugee flights from the Middle East into Detroit or Chicago or L.A. I mean, we have no idea how bad a shape we're in right now, do we?
No, I mean, over the weekend at the stream.org, we publicized a threat from Somali terrorists on the Mall of America. Now, that sounds a little bit outrageous until you realize that there's a huge enclave of Somali so-called refugees, Islamic refugees, of just a few miles from the Mall of America. So basically this terrorist group, Al-Shabaab, was signaling their cousins in Minnesota, hey guys, drive on down the road to the Mall of America and blow it up.
It's unbelievable to me. I mean, are we at a point, though, John, and you studied this, you've written about it, and you probably know more than most, are we at a point of no return in this country of common sense and common protection for our citizenry, or have we gone too far in political correctness?
I would say we're close to that breaking point. When you have senators like Lindsey Graham and John McCain trying to demonize Americans for just trying to protect our borders, when you have billion-dollar donors like the Koch brothers trying to make open borders a litmus test for Republican nominees. I mean, if it gets to the point where even Republicans can't speak up for national security, then you don't have a two-party system. You have a one-party state, and it is hopeless. The way it seems hopeless in some European countries, where they've just surrendered too much. They've gone too far, and there's no going back. I think there's still some vital energy and some legitimate self-interest and patriotism in America, but we have to stand up and push back and not be fooled by false promises and empty rhetoric.
What can we do, though, to, like you mentioned, the refugees? We've got a refugee center, if you will, at our local college right here in southern Idaho, to the point where they've been bringing in thousands of these people. And we don't know their backgrounds. We don't know anything about these people, and the same can be said for many, many areas around the United States. We really don't have a clue as to how well organized they are possibly in a future takeover.
Well, I think they're going, you may find out their backgrounds when they're arrested for blowing up a shopping mall or a bridge or shooting up a school or gunning down people at your local marathon races. And we need to hold accountable the public officials who let those people in.
You know, of the two countries that come to mind naturally that are still bastions of freedom and hope, Canada, my dear friends to the Northland, and then also here still in the United States. But really, with the open border system and what's going on in Europe and around the globe, especially in the Middle East, it's a very dark picture, isn't it?
It's definitely a time of challenge. We thought we were off the hook in 1990 when the Soviet Union collapsed. And we had about 25 years of being fat and happy and comfortable. And now the world is a dangerous place again. That's its natural condition. The world is naturally dangerous. Happy, peaceful times are the exception.
John, one final thought here before I let you go this morning, but naturally there would be people like myself and others that would say, well, gee whiz, what's the United Nations for? Shouldn't they be banding together to stop this cancerous approach? What are your thoughts on the UN?
The United Nations is kind of like a virus that destroys your immune system so you can get sick with other things. The retrovirus. Kind of like the AIDS virus. The United Nations is there to break down natural, healthy mechanisms and weaken countries so that they're vulnerable. I see very few positive uses for the United Nations. You know, I'm a native New Yorker, so I guess it brought some business to the businesses and restaurants on the east side of New York. That's really the only legitimate value I can think of to the United States.
I like that. Dr. John Zmirak, and I appreciate your being on the program this morning. You're welcome anytime, and I mean this when I say it. God's blessings to you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you very much. Very interesting gentleman right there. And wow, I mean, when you look and read this piece that he had written called How Can the West Defend Itself? Jihadists are reportedly hoping to flood North Africa and then Europe and then us using Muslim refugees as cover. It's happening. It's happening. And we sit back kind of like a big old sponge and just absorb whatever the world wants to throw at us and into us. It's got to stop. Oh boy, time for the weather. And the weather is brought to you this hour by our friends at Riverview Urgent Care and Medical Center. I had to run in there last night myself, and I'll tell you the service is impeccable. Really nice people. I had a hearing problem last night that was driving me nuts, and they took care of it just like that. Really appreciate their efforts at 382 North Overland in Burley. Minor emergencies, major care, and they will see you today. That's right. Remember the telephone number, 678-6996. Absolutely. They treat everyday injuries and illnesses, ear infections, sprains, strains, and fractures, injuries due to accidents. You just please remember the number and stop in at 678-6996, 382 North Overland in Burley, Riverview Urgent Care and Medical Center. And now, here's Michael Rogers Weather.
Hello, everyone. Michael Rogers is at the ranch. You got sun and clouds today and temperatures in the 40s, and that's okay. You're getting set up for snow, which is going to start on Thursday and carry you all the way through Saturday. Tomorrow, you're going to see sun and clouds, and it's going to turn into mostly cloudy, and your big weather story is it's going to be windy. Looking for wind gusts up to about 30, 35 miles an hour. Daytime highs in the 40s. When the snow hits, daytime highs be in the upper 30s. Enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
There you go. MichaelRogersWeather.com, brought to you this hour by Riverview Urgent Care and Medical Center. Really good folks. Very concerned about taking care of you at 382 North Overland Avenue in Burley. Don't forget, minor emergencies, major care. Call them at 678-6996. Oh, man. Gina, what are you doing over there? What's cooking over there this morning? I haven't even hardly talked to you at all.
Just figuring out the boys' tournament brackets.
You're still playing with the brackets?
Well, I got to get everything figured out because I'm the one covering the games.
You're the one playing the board or what?
No, I'm the one that coordinates everything.
Oh, you're the person.
Yes, I'm the one that schedules all of the board ops and makes sure that all of the announcers have the equipment that they need and everything. So that's what I've been doing.
Busy time of the year, not only for high school, but we are just weeks away from March Madness.
Yeah.
And the finality to the NCAA NCAA season, and I think you have a favorite team, by the way?
No. I haven't even been keeping track.
You know, I got to tell you, there's a big surprise looming on the horizon. Boise State University's basketball team might be a dark horse to get into the NCAAs and might beat some people.
I heard that Boise is doing pretty good, and I know that Gonzaga is doing kind of sort of decent.
Yep.
I haven't even kept track of NCAA action.
Now, didn't you go to Gonzaga?
Yeah, I graduated with my master's there.
From Gonzaga?
Yes.
What kind of a school is it? I mean, I have never been by the campus. I don't know anything about the school. I don't know anything about their main thrust as far as education is concerned. What about Gonzaga University?
Gonzaga University is actually a Jesuit school, so therefore it is based upon the Catholic faith. And they are located in Spokane, Washington, and they offer some great programs there. It's a very nice campus. I've only seen it in pictures. And I've driven through there, but I've never really attended classes.
So you did everything remote, right?
Right. I was actually working here with you while I was doing my master's degree.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Now, do they or do they not have a football program? It's primarily just a basketball school, isn't it?
I think it's just a basketball school, basketball, baseball. I don't think that they have a football program now.
Okay, and one of their famous alumni went on to be possibly one of the greatest guards in NBA history.
Also, you know who graduated there that I didn't know?
Who?
Bing Crosby.
Bing Crosby?
Yes.
You mean the old crooner?
Yes.
So this is a school that's been there for a long time.
Yes. Over 100 years, yeah.
Well, of course, John Stockton, very famous from there. And his son's playing on the team, too.
Very correct, yes.
Yep, very good. So you got your master's from Gonzaga University. Is it Gonzaga or Gonzaga?
Gonzaga.
Aga, with an A. Okay, all right, got it.
Go Zags, Gonzaga.
Okay, and so you have your doctor's degree on the wall, right?
Well, I've got, of course, my undergraduate was obviously from the University of Idaho, and then I went ahead and I got my master's degree through Gonzaga, and then I am considering a doctorate, and if I go through that, then that will be through WSU.
I got to ask you, we've never talked about this subject that seems to be creeping up again, and women at the Oscars were yelling and screaming about equal pay for equal work, and I think some actresses absolutely are far in exceedance of money for what they earn for movies over men. What are your thoughts about this equal pay and yelling and screaming, saying that they're not being treated fairly?
I'm assuming you're talking about maybe the Oscars last night?
I did, yeah. Well, the night before, yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't watch. But, if they're doing the same job as the man and they're doing just as good of a job and they're getting the same kind of honors and accolades, why shouldn't they be paid?
I have no argument with that whatsoever. None.
But then again, I'm not in Hollywood, and so therefore, I don't, understand the dynamics of, what goes on, behind closed doors when they're talking contracts. But I guess maybe, the women, they need to be a little bit more assertive when it comes down to signing the contract and making sure that they are getting equal pay.
But when you start talking about some of the icons in Hollywood, in the film business, and you take the name of the past John Wayne, and let's say match that against Meryl Streep, you can't possibly draw an equality line there.
Well, no, but see, John Wayne, he was a studio actor, and so he was paid studio pay.
Yeah.
Where Meryl Streep, I don't think that they have basic studio pay just for regular movie actors anymore. That whole thing has kind of changed, because back in the days of Marilyn Monroe and James Dean and all of these others, they were paid a monthly salary by the studio.
Right.
They weren't paid contract per movie and by movie sales, unlike how actors and actresses are paid now. So the whole pay schematic has changed within Hollywood, and so, that's really all I
Yeah, but John Wayne wasn't that way all of his career, though.
Yeah, see, I don't know.
No, when he started, I think it was called Bat Jack Productions, and basically went out on his own with John Ford and others, starting as far back as into the late 40s and going into the 50s and 60s. I think at one time he was the highest paid actor in Hollywood of anybody, I think, at that time.
Probably so.
Yeah.
And well deservedly. I mean, John Wayne is an icon. So.
Yeah. Who is your favorite actor now?
My favorite actor now?
Or actress?
I like Chris Helmsley.
Who?
Chris Helmsley.
You got me.
He plays a lot of, the movie Thor.
Oh, okay.
He was Thor.
Okay.
As far as actresses are concerned, boy, I have to be kind of lame and say I really don't have one. I really like Uma Thurman, but she hasn't been in any flicks lately.
The only actor that I will stand up, two actors, I will stand up and salute. I like their work, I like their personalities, and I like their attitude outside of films. They're not politically correct. They're going to tell it like it is. One being Tom Selleck, and the other one being Robert Duvall.
I like Robert Duvall. And well, okay, if we're going to go that route, we got to throw in Sean Connery as well.
Absolutely. But they have never catered to the political correctness of Hollywood.
No, they have not, nor should they.
Nope. Robert Duvall is Robert Duvall. And Tom Selleck, I don't know if you remember the dust-up he had with, what was her name? The heavy-set talk show host during the day. And
Rosie
O'Donnell over guns and the NRA. And that was quite a dust-up, and believe me, he left old Rosie in the dust. He stepped right over her and let her know how wrong she was, and I respect him for that.
Yeah, you've got to stand up, because Rosie O'Donnell, she's kind of forceful and very off to the left.
Absolutely.
And so, he had to stand up for what he felt was right. And I've always been a fan of Tom Selleck. I always have been.
Yep, I like movies like Quigley Down Under and others I really enjoyed.
Yes.
Okay, I got to pay some bills. Thank you, Gina. Enjoyed the conversation. Parkview Rehabilitation and Care Center, 2303 Park Avenue in Burley. My goodness, the number to call, 677-3073. Now, you've heard me say this before. They were recently awarded a 5-star rating from the government. That's the highest rating awarded to skilled nursing facilities. Whoa, that's really good. And it's a nursing home that provides medical nursing service for seniors with serious illnesses or disabilities 24 hours a day. They never, ever forget that you are the valued guest and customer and the reason why they're there. You better believe it. Call for more information. The number, 677-3073, Parkview Rehabilitation and Care Center, 2303 Park Avenue in Burley. Really good, folks. I ask your indulgence on my sore throat this morning and my lack of voice. It's been kind of acting up here today, so I appreciate everybody kind of bearing with me. We did get a note, and Gina doesn't even know about this, but on Thursday, the Mike Crapo office back in Washington, D.C. just sent me a note and said, can you let him on your program for about 10 minutes at 9:30 to about 9:40 on Thursday morning? Well, I'm going to indulge on Rita Ramsey and see if we can't put her on right after Mike Crapo. We've been waiting to get the senator on for months due to his heavy schedule, so we're going to try to slip him in there at 9:30 our time on this Thursday. Senator Mike Crapo. I've got a lot of things to ask him in a very short time. Next hour coming up, we're going to have Dr. History. He just showed up and in all of his radiant glory, wearing his tuxedo with the tie neatly tied and trimmed, looks really sharp, and he's going to be next up with Dr. History, brought to you by our friends at Minnecash Sales, so stay tuned for that. We'll be back in 6 minutes. Don't you go away. Oh, welcome back. Good morning. He's here. I'll tell you more about that in a minute. Right now, Zeb at the Ranch with our major sponsor, of course, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, and some of our great advertisers, including Western Way Services, always at your disposal. Get on the route service today. Call Kelly 734-6969. We're going to have our guest with us in just a moment, but first and foremost, I want to remind you about the Chadwick Sports Grill at 139 West Main in Burley. Today, they're going to have beef shawarma. I don't know if that's right how I said that. It's shawarma, beef shawarma. It's a Middle Eastern dish served with red cabbage and carrot salad on pita with super salad. Sounds good, really good.
Sounds better than it sounds.
Oh my, I'll tell you what, it sounds great at the Chadwick Sports Grill. I've never in my life found a bad meal there ever. The specials are phenomenal. So go in and ask them, what is beef shawarma? And they'll tell you about it today at the Chadwick, 139 West Main in Burley. All the great specials, all the menu items, delicious at the Chadwick Sports Grill. In just a moment, we're going to have our guest with us, and that is Dr. History. And I want to remind you, too, about our friends at Burley Glass. Oh, my goodness sakes, 1029 Overland in Burley, working hard to provide great service to all the communities in the Magic Valley with General Ben and Leslie and the rest of the crew. With all your vinyl windows, they can help increase the energy efficiency of your home by at least 2 to 3 times. We put them in this office, and they are great. Burley Glass, 1029 Overland Avenue in Burley. Very, very nice people. Well, hello, Dr. History. How are you? Brought to you, everybody, by Minnecasia Sales, located at 1321 East Main in Burley. How are you today?
I'm doing great. It's a nice day out there. The sun's shining. It's not too bad.
Now, you're going to be practicing Chinese before too long?
Yes, I'm going to be over there, and I'm kind of excited to get over there.
Can you say something in Chinese this morning?
No. Not a word.
Maybe they say no over in China.
I've got some CDs that I'm trying to practice Mandarin. Uh-huh. It's not going well.
Are they the ones that you listen while you have them under your pillow at night?
Well, I've got them out in my shop listening. It's not working.
So you fall asleep in your shop.
Right.
I see. Okay. I believe we're going to be talking about a subject, medicine in the Old West, but particularly up in the gold mining areas, right?
Well, if you think about the gold rush and the mining camps, you know that there were accidents and things that happened, and so we're going to talk about the doctors in gold country.
And then you're going to give me a break in the middle so we can talk all about Minnecasia Sales.
That's right.
All right. Good.
All right. Well, seeking their fortune along with everybody else, some doctors found after arriving in the gold camps that they could make more money attending the sick than prospecting. Now, an ounce of gold, which might take all day or longer to dig, was worth $16, and that was what many doctors charged for a house call. And as one discouraged 49er complained, he said, gravel, chills, fever, and scurvy begin to make their appearance, and I ain't well myself. There's been 3 doctors or things they call doctors working at me for some time. Have now paid out all my gold to the doctors, and they leave me in worse condition. Another miner wrote, the doctors charge pretty well. They charge for pills as if they were diamonds and bleed a man of an ounce of gold and an ounce of blood at the same time.
What was an ounce of gold worth back then?
I don't know.
Oh. Okay.
That's a good question.
Okay.
But anyway, the doctors, like other fortune seekers, were always ready to move on to the latest hot spot. Many mining town trenchants included doctors and lawyers, merchants, gamblers, and other entertainers that came to mine the miners out of their hard-earned gold dust.
Mm-hmm. What are you giggling for?
Well, I was just looking at you.
That makes me feel real warm and fuzzy. Sure, I let a little yawn out. I wasn't bored.
Okay, I could just see the wheels turning in your head.
Uh-huh.
Yes. Anyway, so, as I said, people came to mine the miners. But the hustle sometimes worked both ways. One doctor, newly arrived at Deadwood, Dakota Territory, treated a miner's badly shot-up arm and was paid with a sack of gold dust. Well, later he found out that that it was not real gold, and after that he always carried a bottle of testing acid with him to make sure he was getting the real thing.
Really?
Now, mining camp doctors were often justifiably leery of their professional colleagues. Not only was there a great deal of suspicion among the different medical sects at the time, but there was also rivalry, and actually there were territories. Now, practicing in Placerville, California, previously known as Hangtown, there was a guy by the name of Dr. Hullings, described as a large, belligerent, swaggering man, had frightened off all the other doctors who tried to hang their shingles in the community. Well, Dr. Willis came to those diggings and hung his diploma on the wall of the tent that served as his office, and it wasn't long before Hullings stalked into the tent, tore up the diploma, spat tobacco juice in Willis's face, and that was his mistake. Willis challenged Hullings to a duel, and it ended in the newcomer's favor, and the good Dr. Willis then settled into a quite nice medical practice.
Now, he was the one that spit the tobacco.
The guy that spit the tobacco lost.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
The new doctor won and took over the territory.
Moral of the story, don't chew.
Don't chew. Well, in the far-flung mining towns, anyone calling himself a doctor was usually accepted at face value. Now, during the boom in Bannock, Montana in the 1860s, at least 12 men who called themselves doctors drifted into town. So even legitimate doctors didn't come to those hard scrabble places for humanitarian reasons, but to dig for gold. So some of the physician miners, failing to make their strike or their pile, returned to their profession, and some had offices, often in a tent, but they practiced mostly out of saddlebags. And the doctor's paraphernalia were carried either on a horseback or in a buggy, and he treated his patients at their home or wherever they happened to be. Now, many of the mining gulches were so isolated they had no resident doctor. So a few doctors rode the circuit and made regular visits, sometimes accompanying a clergyman. So men of the cloth often rode circuits in rural areas, including those in the West. So the progress of those traveling physicians and teachers and preachers on their missions to heal the body and the soul was often slowed by terrible weather, poor trails, stream crossings, all the things they had to put up with. But in their saddlebags or pocket cases or leather handbags, the doctors carried their tools of the trade, pocket instruments like scissors, scalpels, probes, special knife for enlarging bullet and arrow wounds, needles, tweezers, sutures, clamps. Some carried amputation saws and knives. They used muslin for bandage, and sometimes they used lint to stop bleeding.
I have a question.
Okay.
In the Old West, was there any guarantee? Was there any diploma? Was there any kind of a verification that they were really doctors? Or maybe they just rode into town and said they were a doctor because they stayed at a Holiday Inn last night?
That is exactly the case. And that happened throughout the West. These charlatans and fakes would come in and sell their famous cure-all and then move on to the next town. But frontier doctors often used whiskey as anesthesia. Even when there was ether and chloroform available, whiskey was kind of the trusted all-around anesthesia. Mm-hmm. So liquor was used as a general medicinal for a variety of ailments. If nothing else, an ounce or two worked as a great mood elevator, and if a doctor used any antiseptic at all, it was drinking whiskey and just sloshed it into the wound.
So the general public really was at the whims of what these people wanted to do.
Oh, yeah, and sometimes you were taking your life in your hands just to go to the doctor.
Wow.
So, but in the farther reaches of the frontier, they were the last to hear about the modern or new things, so new medical ideas. Mm-hmm. So in the mid to late 1800s, a time of considerable medical progress, the dissemination of the medical advancement was almost entirely by word of mouth. They didn't have the books and the internet or anything like that to dispense the knowledge. So a lot of these guys got out there, and if they did graduate from a acknowledged medical school, they didn't have contact to learn what was being, the new information.
So if they got bit by a snake and the guy says, "How bad is it, Doc?" the doc just looked at him and says, "You're going to die."
Yeah.
Okay.
But anyway, out of necessity, some doctors, they didn't have stethoscopes, so they just put their ear to the chest, and they didn't have the ophthalmoscope for looking in the eyes. Some didn't even have a thermometer to check for temperature. But in the light of the enormous advances made by medical science during the 20th century, it's hard for us to envision how these physicians practiced as they did. I mean, knowing little or nothing about germs.
Oh, my goodness.
And, we'll get into that a little bit later, but
I'll bet we will.
They did not completely understand the transmission of infectious diseases.
Oh, my.
And they diagnosed without modern tools. So the frontier practitioner relied a lot on common sense, which in some cases was really the best medicine anyway.
Yeah.
So now, although helpless in healing infectious disease, many frontier doctors were skilled trauma surgeons. And in the gold camp, guns were used all too often to settle disputes, so mining town doctors gained a good deal of experience with gunshot wounds and other injuries. But because of the high risk of infections, these sometimes crude tools and inadequate anesthesia, surgeons had to have great confidence to be adept with a knife, knowing anatomy pretty good, and operate with speed, because a lot of times these guys were bleeding to death and they had to get in there and get things done.
Yeah, but they didn't have any anesthetics or anything.
No.
And the only thing they had possibly to fight against germs was whiskey.
Yeah, exactly.
Can you imagine having a gunshot wound and pouring whiskey in it? Which planet are you going to end up on?
That's right. When you wake up, where are you going to be? So, but during most of the frontier era, there was little or no appreciation of germs. So operations were performed with unsterilized instruments, sometimes washed in the creek water or prior to being used. The patient was immobilized on a table, lightheaded from whiskey. So operations then were restricted to the external surface of the body. Doctors knew that to open up the abdomen or other body cavity usually led to fatal infections.
Oh, my goodness.
So with
they knew that.
Yeah. With bare, unwashed hands and in hardly any light, the surgeon did his work, tying off gushing blood vessels, probing wounds for bullets, suturing, amputating limbs, and usually they were dressed in just their regular clothing, which they'd been wearing maybe for a week.
We've come a long way.
Yes. And they'd just come from maybe a patient that had measles or mumps.
Oh, my goodness.
So, and sometimes the doctor was smoking a cigar and the ashes would fall into the open wound and flies would be buzzing around.
That would cauterize it, wouldn't it?
It could.
Okay.
This might be a good place to stop.
I think so. Not permanently, but anyway. Dr. History brought to you by Mini-Cassia Sales, 1321 East Main in Burley. By the way, I want to keep telling everybody, they've got all the Tartar Ranch and Farm equipment. And Dr. History knows, because he's been around horses and everything, that is the best. All the panels, all the cattle handling equipment, the tanks and the waterers, rodeo and arena equipment, everything. Zach and Joanne over at Mini-Cassia Sales, they've got what you're looking for. And I'll tell you what, all you have to do is give them a call. And that number is 878-2091. 878-2091, Mini-Cassia Sales, right across from the Burley Airport. And they can help you. 1321 East Main in Burley, bringing you and yours Dr. History.
Well, a patient's survival really depended a lot on luck. I mean, the surgeon's skill and his own vigor helped, obviously, but now one Montana man actually fell on a circular saw, cutting through several ribs into his lung. Dr. John Bucher put the ribs in place, stopped the flow of the blood, patched the lung. The man recovered.
Oh, my goodness.
So the frontier surgeon performed procedures that today would require special instruments, advanced anesthesia, and a team of professional assistants. And yet a lot of patients came out of it with not so much as even a fever, which is amazing.
Unbelievable.
So, but it was in his surgical skill that a doctor gained his reputation. Now, any operation he performed was a matter of public interest. When Dr. Charles Gardner elected to remove a huge tumor from a woman's scalp, a self-appointed commentator shoved his way into his office to report on the operation to the crowd waiting outside. So through an open window, he announced each step of the procedure, the operation, and at the end he said, "She's doing fine, folks. It's all over but the shouting." So the crowd cheered and fired off a couple of shots in the air, and they escorted the doctor to the saloon to celebrate.
Was she all right?
Well, it doesn't say she died.
Well, you're kind of leaving me hanging there, Doc.
It said she's doing fine.
Oh, my goodness sakes.
I don't know how she was the next day.
Yeah.
But now one of the most colorful doctors was a guy by the name of Mitchell. Now, he was in Deer Lodge, Montana. Dr. Mitchell traveled by horseback from place to place. It was said that he had drifted Montana from the mining camps in California about 1865, and that he was ready for any type of surgery with a good drink warm in his veins and a butcher knife in his hands.
A butcher knife?
That's what he had. So one Saturday in the mining camp of Beartown on the Little Blackfoot River, this Dr. Mitchell was called on to treat the badly burned arm of a man named Shorty. Well, the night before, in a drunken stupor, Shorty had fallen into his own fireplace and almost incinerated his arm.
Oh, my goodness.
In the town saloon, an operating table was prepared with planks and whiskey barrels. And, of course, the anesthesia, as I mentioned, was whiskey.
Had plenty of it.
They did, and Dr. Mitchell went to work amputating Shorty's arm while the owner of the establishment spread sawdust on the floor to soak up the blood. After the operation, Shorty hopped up, invited his friends to join him and the doctor in a round of drinks.
You are kidding me.
After having his arm cut off.
I thought you were going to say it was the wrong arm.
Well, we don't know that.
Oh, okay. Oh, my.
Yeah. Well, Mitchell became one of Montana's outstanding doctors, a founding member of the Montana Medical Association.
How much of that story do you honestly believe?
I believe it. I've read enough in this book about the doctors in the Old West.
Jumped off the table and said everybody can have a drink on him?
Yeah.
Without an arm?
Yeah. Yeah.
I hope he didn't keep his change in his left pocket.
That's right. If he was right-handed.
Yeah.
Well, so there's another doctor, Dr. Smith, in Virginia City, and he was really good with orthopedics. He actually built supports for broken legs that he elevated with pulleys and strings, and once when a broken leg refused to stay in place, you ready for this?
Oh, no.
He nailed the bones together using carpenter's tools. The bones held. The patient recovered the use of his leg.
I'm sitting here with my mouth agape. Are you kidding me? Carpenter nails?
Carpenter nails. And actually, if you were to see the tools the doctors use today, you would almost think they came from Ace Hardware. Nails, hammers, saws. Yeah.
I can't even imagine it. I mean, the infection, the bacteria, the staph infections. Wow.
Well, and some guy might recover from a severe injury, and the next guy gets a little cut on his arm and dies from infection.
And when the doctor finished doing that process, he said, "Yep, we nailed him."
We nailed him. Exactly. Well, no study of gold camp doctors would be complete without mentioning Tombstone's amazing Dr. George Goodfellow.
Oh, my.
Okay, he was an innovative surgeon. Goodfellow gained a national reputation for the development of some technical operating procedures.
What?
Now, well, I think I'm going to get to that here. I think.
Okay.
So Tombstone, Arizona was a kind of an angry place.
Oh, it was tough.
Fights with fist, knife, and gun. Hangings were common. Not only treating most of the survivors, but also doing autopsies on some of the dead. Goodfellow developed an advanced understanding of trauma and ballistics.
Had a lot of people to work with.
Yeah, he had a lot to work with. What's more, he shared his studies and observations with his colleagues. So Goodfellow's post-mortem reports show a degree of humor. His examination of a gambler killed over a card game showed, and I quote, "The body to be rich in lead, but not too badly punctured to hold whiskey."
That's a good doctor's report.
So he was still able to hold the whiskey even though he was full of lead.
Yeah.
So anyway, Goodfellow followed Lister's method of surgical antisepsis completely.
Oh, was he the father of Listerine?
Yes.
Really?
The instruments, well, they named it after him.
I see.
So, but the instruments, the sponges, the surgeon's hands, and the field of surgery, he sprayed with carbolic acid all around the room. So this was one of the first guys to actually clean and really sanitize.
Where did he get this idea?
I don't know. Just maybe on his own, he figured it out.
Germs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, word of Goodfellow's skill in saving men with fatal abdominal gunshot wounds spread throughout Arizona. There were few hospitals, so his operating suite was usually a dingy drafty room or a smoky bar room table,
Yeah.
So, but not even Goodfellow could save everyone. His colleague in Tombstone, a county doctor by the name of Willis, was shot and he died of hemorrhage so fast that there was no time for surgery. But Dr. Goodfellow was asked to operate on another colleague, Dr. Handy, and this prominent Tucson doctor was shot in the abdomen by his wife's divorce lawyer.
Boy.
There must be a whole story behind that.
Oh, here we go with the lawyer jokes.
Well, Goodfellow arrived in Tucson 10 hours after the incident with the help of several doctors.
And the guy was still alive?
Still alive. He sutured more than a dozen holes in Dr. Handy's intestines. Well, Dr. Handy died just after the last stitch.
Here you had such a good story.
I know. And that last line just clinched it, didn't it?
Oh, my.
So,
we're out of time.
We are.
You know, the one thing that is amazing to me is that how anybody survived. But I would imagine that because the exposure factor to germs and bacteria was so pronounced back then, maybe they had kind of a warding off of all the germs.
Well, and
an immunity.
That's what I was going to say. I think some of the mountain men, some of those guys developed somewhat of an immunity on their own.
And today, what's the name of the book?
The book is Bleed, Blister, and Purge, and it's a history of medicine in the Old West.
Now, that is an interesting book, Bleed, Blister, and Purge.
And I've told quite a few stories out of this. The Indian medicine, the doctors in the Old West, the grandmother medicines, the granny medicines.
But the Indians actually were a big help in helping American medicine, weren't they?
They were. And there was times when the white men asked the Indian medicine man to come and help them.
And that's where the phrase "yattahe"
came from.
Yeah, that means
whatever that means.
No money.
Do you
have Blue Cross?
The check's in the mail.
Give me your teepee. Anyway, Doc, you'll be here next week?
Yes.
Okay. And another story from the Old West.
Old West.
I got to tell everybody we thank very much, and you can chime in on this. These are wonderful people. Minnecasia Sales, 1321 East Main in Burley. They've got everything. Doors, garage doors. I bought a door from. See my new door out in the back porch?
I did.
Absolutely a nice door. Carpet and vinyl and metal siding. They've got it all for you right there. All you got to do is just stop in and see them at 1321 East Main in Burley. Number to call, 878-2091. Minnecasia Sales. We salute them and say thanks to Zach and Joanne. Appreciate it.
They just came out and measured for some carpet yesterday.
At your place?
At my mother's place.
At your mom's place.
So we're going to get some carpet from them.
Good deal. That's nice. And we'll look forward to having you back here next week.
Sounds great. You have a good day.
I got to do a commercial, and then I've got to go to a break at the bottom of the hour. So, Dr. History, God bless.
Thank you.
Love that pause. Thank you very much. He's quick, I'll tell you for sure. Ladies and gentlemen, don't forget on Thursdays we have a special segment called Cassia County School Days, and we want to say thank you to A Child's World at 1308 Overland in Burley. Don't forget, they started Monday, as a matter of fact, February 23rd all the way through March 8th. It's our 12-day birthday party celebrating 12 years in business at A Child's World, 1308 Overland in Burley. All the family games and toys and the boys' suits and all the newborns' clothing. Oh, my goodness, it's all there at A Child's World. Just a second, Doc, I'll visit with you. And also Ambulatory Surgery Center at 1344 Highland Avenue in Burley. Number to call, 677-8888. And they can perform the arthroscopic surgery, the cataract and eye surgery, colonoscopies, foot surgery. Got a new foot doctor over there. I'm telling you, 14 years, the Ambulatory Surgery Center continues to save you money. Call them at 677-8888. There you go. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes with more Zeb at the Ranch.
And now back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb.
Thank you very much. Welcome back. We're on the home stretch. Secretariat's heading for the finish line. Good morning, everybody, and thank you again to Dr. History. Excellent stories this morning about doctoring in the Old West. Hey, don't forget our friends friends at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. I am so fortunate to be going down there for rehab on my leg and everything. They know all the sports medicine. They know all the exercises. They've got the hydrotherapy pool, the only pool in the area like that with a treadmill in the bottom of it and everything. Oh, man, it's great. Nick Greenwell and the rest of his staff, very, very accomplished physical therapists that can help you. So please get a hold of them today. Call for an appointment at 678-1191. 678-1191. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. We're going to go to the phone lines right now, and I want to say thanks up front to this person for basically at a spur of the moment's notice making free on his calendar to come on to our program, and I'm going to say his name, and then he can kind of tell me I'm wrong on the pronunciation. Nick Zayas, is that right?
It's pretty close. It's Nick Zayas.
Zayas. All right, I'll change it. Thank you very much. Nick, tell me a little bit about what you do so we got some background on you. Would you please?
Okay, I am a policy analyst in D.C. I do research on the government, and a lot of my work focuses on land use and how we use our lands both in cities with zoning laws and in the West with federal land issues and environmental cleanup and things like that.
Okay, well, we may have some differences of opinion, but that all inspires great conversation, so we'll see what you have to say. You have a piece that I just barely had a chance to skim over this morning due to the fact that I got it late. The title is For Pollution's Sake, Privatize Federal Land Already. Why don't you give us a general synopsis as to what you're talking about in this piece?
Okay. My piece focuses on the fact that the federal government has a really bad history of mismanaging the environmental cleanup of the lands that fall under its jurisdiction. The Department of the Interior in the state of Idaho owns something like 45% of all federal lands, and that works out to be something like 25-30% of the entire state. And on these lands, there's a lot of environmental issues, a lot of abandoned mines that haven't been cleaned up, and these are real problems to the people of the state, and that I think that we should involve the state government, we should involve the private sector, we should involve the local governments in cleaning up these sites a little bit so then people can use them for whatever uses they might want to.
So, Nick, let me just kind of back up a little bit. Let me break this down so that I can understand your position. Are you an advocate of perhaps the states, per se, taking back more of these federal lands for management, i.e.
Absolutely.
The forests and everything else?
I think that we should put as much of the federal lands in the state, in the hands of the state and local governments as we possibly could.
Absolutely. I agree with you on this.
Because we know that federal control has not worked. They've been mismanaging these lands for largely since the beginning, since they fell into their hands in the early 1900s. They let ranchers overgraze on these lands. They charge fees that are a little bit too low and cause a bunch of damage. They might not charge the correct amounts for the mineral rights that are being extracted.
Now, let me interrupt you right there and ask you a question.
They haven't done a very good job.
Let me ask you a question, Nick. Of course, now you're talking to a cattleman, and I make no bones about it. I'm proud to have been in the cattle business most of my life. And I know a lot of cattlemen, a lot of people that are in the cattle industry. And when you make the statement that they're allowed to overgraze, it doesn't behoove anybody or the livestock or the rancher or anyone to overgraze and lose the range. They have to be the best managers of the land. And so my question to you would be, have you actually taken range tours and seen for yourself, or are you going by what somebody has said?
I have not, but I've heard a lot of really good stories from a lot of people, especially out of the Policy Environmental Research Center in Bozeman, Montana, where they're experts on rangeland, and they've done these tours. They work with ranchers across the West, and they said that it's a huge problem that overgrazing is happening, and it's not the rancher's fault, which is a big thing. You can't blame ranchers for the fact that the federal government is mismanaging the lands that they're grazing on.
Well, I think that I would say this, and I'm not trying to get into a arbitration with you, but I would say that before you say that ranchers in general are overgrazing and that there is an overgrazing problem, I think it would behoove you to actually take your own tour and not listen to someone that gave you a story synopsis and actually view it firsthand. I think that would be much safer in your...
I would love to get out there and do exactly that. That's on my list of things to do. And I think that I'm running on a lot of secondhand stories, but there's a lot of good evidence of saying it's not everywhere, but in some places, and especially in other states that are in far worse shape, and a lot of states that are faced with a lot worse drought issues, with worse water management issues.
I would invite you...
Wyoming, whereas the issues are a little bit less pressing in your region.
Well, what I would say to you, Nick, and I'll extend this invitation, I would extend to you to call and let us know when during the course of the summer you could come out here, and we'll take you on range tours, and I'll even introduce you to Speaker of the House Scott Bedke for the state of Idaho, who is also a large rancher, and many other ranchers, and we'll take you around so that you can formulate your own opinion and write about that rather than any hearsay or past stories. How's that?
Oh, absolutely. I'd love to do that.
All right. Now, I want to get into other aspects of the word pollution that the government is doing, because you named other sources of pollution that the government is not taking care of. What are they?
Oh, yeah. I think the biggest one is going to be the fact that the abandoned mines that are all over the West. There are 30,000 mines that are sitting there that the Departments of the Interior and Agriculture have not assessed, that they don't know whether they're polluting or whether they're not. But there are 5,000 properties across the West that they know are contaminated, that they know are leaching oil pollution from maybe 100 years ago from miners that are long gone, that they might not know where it came from. There's no way to get someone to pay for this, to fix them. So I think the mining issue, the issue of abandoned mines is really, really a problem that someone needs to deal with this, but the question is who.
So the gist of what I hear you saying, and I agree with some of it, but some of it I'd be in arbitration with you until you come out here and physically see and set your own eyes on the land and draw your own conclusions.
I have done a lot of tours of the abandoned mines back east.
Okay.
Where I've been through a lot of these old mines in the Appalachians where they are a really big problem. I fished these streams where the water is running, or I tried to fish these streams where the water was running orange because of mines from 100, 200 years ago that have just been abandoned. That you can't really. There's only someone needs to deal with, in as much as they're still pouring pollution in these streams. It's making it hard for fishermen. It's making it hard for hunters to go out there and use these lands that we have.
Let me ask you this question. I have always advocated that we, the state of Idaho, and other western states need to have much more control over the lands within our state because of federal government mismanagement or no management whatsoever. And the only problem that keeps coming up is money and how they're going to take it back and afford to take on those the privatization or the state control of those lands. Have you got a solution for that? Did we lose him? Hello, Nick, are you there? Gina, I think he's faded into the hinterland this morning. We lost him all of a sudden.
Let me double check and see if he's there.
Okay, you check that out, and I'll do a quick commercial. My goodness, he was there a moment, and then all of a sudden he faded off into obscurity. So I don't know what happened to our guest for this hour. I will say, while we're checking to see where he went, tomorrow on the program at 10:06 for the All right, thank you. For the entirety of the hour tomorrow at 10:06, we're going to have representatives of the Cassia Public Schools on our program talking about the bond election. So I just want to give you a heads up on that, and that will be for the entirety of the 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock hour tomorrow on our program. Let's see if Gina's got him back on the air. Thank you. Nick, all of a sudden we heard kind of a fuzz and the way it went. Good morning. Good to have you back on the air. I was asking you the question about states being able to economically take back or control all these lands. What have you got for solutions?
That's a really big question. We've been trying to get more land into the hands of those states for decades. There's been some success, but there's also been a lot of hiccups. There's been a big push in a lot of states to bring these lands back into the state jurisdiction, but it's going to take federal action to make anything happen. But I think there's probably a lot of good prospects for getting the control of the federal lands into the hands of those states, where the feds may not want to give it up, but they have a good reason to.
Right.
It's costing them millions of dollars to administer these lands that could be more efficiently done by state governments. So there's regular pushes on these issues in Congress that we see, and I know, and it might not happen right now. It might not happen in the next year or two, but in the next few years, I'm sure that we will see some form of devolution of these federal land management to the states, where the states will have a bigger say in what can be done with a lot of these lands that they're sitting there, and many of them are being underused, or they're not being used right.
Yeah.
That they can do better.
Let me ask you.
I mean, very clear to many legislators here in Washington that they simply can't afford, in a time where our budgets are crunched, where we're going to have to make hard decisions.
Okay.
That we can't afford to administer all these lands, and we think that the states should be able to do it better.
Let me ask you this question. Let's assume that states can start a reclamation program of a lot of the federal lands within their boundaries, within their states, be it Wyoming, Idaho, whatever the state might be. What about then the cleanup? What about the money for the cleanup factor? I mean, all of this is going to take a lot of money. Where's all the money going to come from?
And that's a good question. This is one place where environmental groups can get involved. One thing that the federal government really has a problem with is working with anyone on the outside. That working with private environmental groups, working with and I'm talking like people like Trout Unlimited, which is a group that I briefly did work with in the past, where they have a good reason to restore these streams. They want people to be able to fish them. And they want to stop the acid mine drainage going into the stream. So they have every kind of reason to send out their volunteers to rally their private support. Many town local chambers of commerce could easily be involved, and it could be a state government. This could be simply state tax dollars being used. Mm-hmm. But you can also offset that with fees for using new lands moving forward.
Okay.
They know that once they've been cleaned up, that they'll be able to charge money for people to use these lands, and then they can bank on that and use that money to clean them up in the first place.
All right.
And it's a place where you can get both innovation and private sector involvement to clean up problems that are just going to linger. The federal government has a priority list that's many, many thousands of things long, and you don't know like how high on the priority list any of these places are.
Right.
So that a state can far more easily target the money to places that people actually care about, that people are going to use, and then eventually reprioritize and eventually clean them all up. But and this could easily be this could also be a case where federal dollars could be granted to the states or something like that. But the states are going to be far more flexible, whereas the federal government is not in getting these things cleaned up.
Well, I'll guarantee.
Rather than wait for 30 years to clean something up, we might actually be able to see some real difference in our lifetimes.
Absolutely. I will agree with you that I would like to see more states' rights and state protection, if you will, over the lands that reside within the state boundaries. But there again, I also would invite you sometime this next summer, if you'd like to have an eyeball to the ground, real look and write about that, you be sure and give me a call and we'll arrange that tour. I promise you that.
Oh, absolutely.
All right. Nick, I want to say the game again. Zayas, is that right?
Perfect.
All right. Thank you for being on the program this morning. God bless. Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you, sir. Nick Zayas, one of the young voice advocates coming out of the East Coast and talking about states taking back over federal land in those states. You know, and one point I wanted to make with that young man is don't understand criticism by purely what other people say. Don't say, well, this is going on, I heard so-and-so. And I learned a long time ago that if you want to make a good opinion and a strong opinion and be able to vocalize it, you have to see it, you have to eat it, you have to sleep it, you have to drink it, you have to understand it for yourself. And that's why I caution that young man. Don't make criticism of the ranching industry in general or anything until you've actually put your boots on the ground. Time for the weather. And the weather is brought to everybody this hour by Scarro's Meats. They're located at 331 North Road, Jerome. Number to call, 324-7657. They guarantee everything they sell. Everything. And everything they sell is so delicious. All the beef, all the pork, all the lamb, all the processing of wild game. My goodness sakes, it's delicious. Delicious. They sell taste one bite at a time. Scarro's Meats in Jerome, 324-7657. And now, here's Michael Rogers' weather.
Hello, everyone. Michael Rogers is at the ranch. You got sun and clouds today and temperatures in the 40s, and that's okay. You're getting set up for snow, which is going to start on Thursday and carry you all the way through Saturday. Tomorrow, you're going to see sun and clouds, and it's going to turn into mostly cloudy, and your big weather story is it's going to be windy. Look at the wind gusts up to about 30, 35 miles an hour. Daytime highs in the 40s. When the snow hits, daytime highs be in the upper 30s. Enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got. All
right. Thank you, Michael. Brought to everybody this hour by Scarro's Meats. 331 North Road, Jerome. Number to call, 324-7657. Gina, if you had to run out of your house all of a sudden in an emergency and head for the hills, what would you take with you? What would you have in your little go bag that you would find the most necessity to have with you?
Oh, okay. Well, first, I would grab all of at least the important identification documents for my family.
Good thought. Good thought.
I would grab probably my tools, because I've got several little tool sets. I would grab a tool set. I would grab a knife, a gun, probably some matches, and then whatever kind of food supplies I could get and get out.
Okay. Now, everything you said was very well thought out. Tool set, I didn't even think of a tool set because I'm not very gifted with the use of tools. But see, that's one I hadn't put on my list. I had gun, I had ammunition, I had extra clothing, especially warm clothing. You can always take off, but you always can't put on. And water is number one on the list.
Water purification tablets.
Yep.
Some sort of water purification system. Whether my grandparents got this a long time ago, and they're little water jugs.
Yeah.
And you can put any kind of water into it, and then you suck the water through this carbon filtration system. So you could grab just regular water out of a creek, and then you could drink that, and then through this filtration system that's built into the water bottle itself, it would be safe. Or you grab matches, you make sure you have a pot or something, and you boil your water.
You know, Sharon Hardy Mills is excellent at this type of thing, and she's got list upon list upon list of what to do, and to have, quote-unquote, a go bag right by your back porch. Do you have one?
Honestly, no.
I do.
I need to get one together, but I don't have one.
Yeah, and she has all the lists and everything. And the reason I bring this up is we just don't know anymore today. Where would you go? What would you do? What would you take with you? I mean, these are all things that people need to consider. That's not fear-mongering. I'm sure a lot of people are probably saying, you know what, in this day and age, in case something happened and we had to get out of Dodge City in a hurry, where would we go and what would we take with us? And that's why a person needs to be prepared.
I would head north. And that's just me. I would take the back roads and head north, stay off of the major interstates and freeways and highways because it's going to be just jammed. So hopefully you have a four-wheel drive and you can get up over them hills and through the creek beds because, boy, howdy if you think you're going to try and get through on a major roadway.
You know, and most people, when you think of the bigger cities, and there's a movie on this, and I can't remember the name of the movie, but like the large metropolitan areas and everything, there was a crisis, and all of a sudden they were jumping in their cars and their pickups, and just like you said, everybody was bumper to bumper on the exits going out of the city, etc. So you need to plan something that is not a well-used travel area.
Yeah, take the back roads, take the dirt roads. Make sure you have a compass and a map and a couple extra 5-gallon, things of fuel in the back so you can make sure that you're getting where you're going. Because if something major happens, money's going to be worthless. Everything that's running electronic is probably going to be down, so that means gas pumps aren't going to work.
You didn't mention your cell phone.
Cell phones wouldn't work.
Why not?
If there's an EMP or the electricity goes down, how are you going to charge your cell phone?
But it is a good, I agree with that. But
and how are these cell phone towers?
But there are those portable generators. There are those.
Yeah, I know. But how are cell phone towers going to be powered without power?
But I think what you said is the basics.
Yes.
You know, I mean, the go bag. You could put all that in a little go bag right by your back door.
Yep.
Everything.
And you make sure that you have, one for each member of your family, and, just pack the essentials. Don't make sure, you don't need to, pack for 3 weeks like you're going to the Bahamas. Pack the absolute essentials of what you're going to need, and think in survival mode, not vacation mode. Survival mode.
And survival today, and I know a lot of people are probably being critical of us, saying, oh, you're crying wolf, talking about everybody heading for the hills or heading out of town, whatever. It could be over just maybe if the power grid goes down. You got to get out of here, this area for a while. It could be a major flood, maybe a dam breaks or whatever. It could be a major fire. It could be anything. It doesn't have to be as clandestine as maybe an enemy takeover like in the movie Red Dawn.
No, you know what, and it's not about being all like, doomsday is coming. No, it's just the act of being prepared.
Absolutely.
Because you never know. Something could happen 5 minutes from now. Something could happen 5 days from now. You just never know.
And the one thing
it's helpful to be prepared. And we've got 2 phone calls.
Okay, I'll take one, and then I got to do a commercial. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Is that me?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Okay. We went through a couple of years ago, and me and a bunch of the guys, we decided we were going to see if we could do something like that. And we just all picked up and went and saddled up, and we rode off into the sticks and stayed there 2 or 3 nights, with just what we had.
And how did it turn out for you?
Well, this fat kid got pretty hungry.
Yeah, but were you prepared, and had you given it a lot of thought beforehand as to what you might need? Not what you wanted, but what you needed.
Well, see, and that was the thing, is we just went with what we had on what we were wearing. We just saddled up and rode off. And it came upon the deal that, well, let's see if we can make it.
I'm going to carry...
I had a pocket knife, and one guy had a Leatherman, and we rigged up some sort of sticks to stab trout out of the creek, we made it work, but it wasn't easy.
I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I've had a lot of people ask me, and I know I got another caller, and I don't have time. I got to get my commercial in. But we're going to carry this over into tomorrow a little bit, because I think it's a subject that needs to be addressed more as to really not what you want, but what you need to have ready. Caller, thank you for your call. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
all right. Gina, remind me of that tomorrow morning, would you? Okay, I want to remind everybody quickly about the Founders Celebration going on at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you during the Founders Celebration in tribute to Mr. Les Schwab. Absolutely, they've got tires, all-season tread tires, economically priced, some as low as just $39.99. And don't forget the very, very best in special offers like $50 off custom wheels when you buy a new set of 4, or $20 off wheel alignment when you buy 4 new tires. Stop in and see the best people in the business. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family and Paul, John on Poline and Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland and Burley. The best, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Got to run. Good conversation this morning. Thank you much, everybody. We'll be back tomorrow morning at 8:06 right here on KBAR 1230 AM and streaming live on the internet, ZebBell.com. Until then, the way things were, the way things ought to be. See you tomorrow morning at 8:06.